Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell TV. We may even have a visit from Mike Lindell. In fact, we have a visit from Mike Lindell. He just walked in. He must have some kind of unbelievable hearing. He hears his name, and there he is, Mike Lindell. Well, I'm in Washington today because we had a meeting of the advisory committee for the Department of Homeland Security, and it was very interesting. It was a very, very interesting meeting, and it was very substantive. And the secretary should be given great credit for doing that, bringing all these advisors together. I'm not going to tell you a damn thing of what happened, okay? It's all secret. I'm not going to report it, except it was very useful. We're going to cover the big beautiful bill, which now I don't know what the odds are. Are they betting on it, Ted? Is there like a line in Las Vegas? Yeah. You know how they bet on everything?
Poly market.
Or those betting services, yeah. The betting services,
right?
That apparently got the New York race.
Thank you.
More correct than anyone else.
That's right.
They're the ones who predicted.
You and I predicted that one.
What's his name? Karl Marx's victory.
Mom Dummy. Someone called him Mom Dummy today.
I thought it was Karl Marx. I don't know, but.
So
Mondami's victory was either not supposed to happen, or it was supposed to be very close, and he won by a fair margin. And it was one of those betting services,
Polymarket.
That's it, Polymarket. See, he knows he's actually a bettor.
I used to be. I stopped. I work for you.
So what are they saying about the big beautiful bill? Is it going to go through or not?
So the big beautiful bill. We're going to check on the latest.
Or tell me if it doesn't, how many primary races we have to be active in next year?
Quick passage unlikely. Today, they're giving the bill an 11% chance.
Ooh, that's not good. I mean, everybody's betting against it if it's an 11% chance.
Let's see here. Let's see if we can get a more update. This is quite something how they have this.
Of course, I think
the latest number now has it at... Okay, correction. 77% chance.
All right.
The 11% was something to do with the speed of which it would pass.
Yeah. Well, that's much better.
So they're saying Polymarket reports that there is a 77% chance that the president's signature legislation will pass between July 1st and the 6th. So that does give them until midnight.
So the other thing, before I have Allison on that I should report is one of the biggest stories. Aside from the big beautiful bill and the attack is kind of it's still there as a big story, but not the biggest any longer. Is New York, but not in a good way. It's the shock of this Mondani, Zoltan Mondani, winning the primary in the Democratic Party, which is a lot more than just winning a primary. I mean, so just to give you an example, in 100+ years, I was the third Republican mayor of New York City. It's a pretty rare event. I was only two of three that remain Republican. One of the guy in between LaGuardia and me, John Lindsay, quit the Republican Party halfway through and then became a Democrat. He was even a Democrat candidate for president, as was Bloomberg, who quit the Republican Party. So generally, it would mean having won the primary, he now is going to be the mayor. Except there are some credible candidates running against him. There's of course, the present mayor, who is in trouble, but he's already won the election. He's already won an election as mayor, and you can never just kind of put that aside. So he has a constituency. And there's Curtis Sliwa, who made a better than expected showing in the last mayoral election for a Republican. And as you expand the field with more and more people, his 30% vote as a Republican starts to make him a realistic candidate. Now he just needs 4 or 5 more. I mean, you can win it with 35, 36, 37%. For example, in the 20th century, only LaGuardia and I won as Republicans with a majority. John Lindsay won with 42% of the vote because there were 3 candidates. So it starts to become somewhat more possible for a Republican to win if there are a number of Democrats. Suppose it's Mondani and it's Adams and Cuomo remains in it. Now you got 3 Democrats. That Republican 30% starts to become all of a sudden important. And when you consider that a Republican, what was Trump? Trump was about 35%, maybe 36%. And Trump has to deal with just a terrible, like, for example, in Manhattan, he won 1 voting district. I'm sorry, 1 voting booth. What I mean by that is it wasn't an entire district. It was one place that you vote in Chinatown. And Trump, that's the only place in Manhattan. This is where Trump comes from, that Trump won. Because Manhattan is, I don't know if you look in their eyes, but you'll see a certain number of people that walk around in a complete haze. It's called being brainwashed. So now they have nominated, as the President of the United States said, I thought almost in a state of shock, like he was reaffirming himself. President Trump said, they got a communist candidate now in New York. No, but he really is a candidate. He really is a communist. We've had ones that look like communists, maybe were, and pretended they weren't. But this guy is straight out and out a communist. I mean, the best giveaway is he repeats the Marxist lines as if they're slogans. He talks in slogans, by the way, which usually is the indicator of a rather small brain. But his ideas would suggest that he has a small brain, not a normal sized one. He said, for example, government should have control of the means of production. That's right out of Marx. I mean, almost word for word. He probably had it translated from the German. He wants to have state-owned grocery stores and supermarkets. The last ones of those were the ones in the Soviet Union where people couldn't find any food. They had the stores, but there was no food in the stores, which is what caused the overthrow of the Soviet Union. So, I mean, he is really a testament to the ability to do effective brainwashing. That he won is a discredit to the people that I love so much, the people in New York. But then again, a small percentage of them. I don't know what the turnout was, Ted. Why don't we get that? Because one idiot claimed it was a big turnout, but he doesn't know.
Low turnout. I would say under 5% of registered.
The guy I had the big fight with said that I was lying about all kinds of things.
Cenk from the Young Turks.
Yeah, including there was a very big turnout. Yeah, 4 people showed up. Yeah. It was really terrific. It was what was the turnout?
Under 5% under 5% of eligible New York City voters elected or voted for this guy, meaning that's the percentage that made the decision.
The turnout?
Yeah, that's what we'll get the exact percentage.
It wasn't a big turnout. I remember from the numbers.
I believe it was hovering around 20.
It was in the hundreds of thousands. I mean, when I ran, it was in the millions. So, and that's only 500 years ago, or wherever it is, a long time ago. That's when we used to use ballots and we had honest elections. We actually counted votes. We got elected by votes then. Now we get elected by digital readouts from one digital to another and fractional voting.
That's right. So
I'll have to discuss that with Mike. I never understood fractional voting. But I can't mention the machine, but there are machines that do fractional voting. And at first I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know that the machines did fractional voting. And I started thinking, what Democrats have always been very good at bringing dead people in to vote. I just couldn't do it. I didn't know how to get dead people's votes. But now I said they know how to get half people and quarter people to vote. Like a quarter horse. They got quarter people that vote Democrat. because there were some of these elections where they didn't bother to fix it up, and it ended up, 1,220 and a half votes. Who's the half guy?
So according to City and State New York, just over 1 million people voted in the mayoral Democrat primary. This is higher than the 2021 primary, where 940,000 New Yorkers voted. It is below, as the mayor cited, the 1989 primary turnout, where 1.1 million
that turnout
votes
is the one that defeated me. But
were cast. That was 89.
What percentage is that of the Democrats? It's less than half, I would think.
So we'll get that. Well,
Less
definitely
than
less than half, right? If there's approximately a little over 4 million voters,
Yeah,
right,
but
in New
it's
York.
8 to 1 Democrat.
Right. So that's
70 to
significantly
80%,
less.
70 to 80% of the registered voters are Democrats. It's not like a normal city, a third, and a third. It's a highly brainwashed city.
Political observers are pointing to the spike in young voters, particularly those aged 25 to 34, who constituted the largest share of the primary electorate.
Did anybody have to show identification to vote?
That's a good question. What
was
is
the share-
what is
what
the
was
rule in New York
What
on
was
that?
the number of illegal aliens that voted?
Well, that's a very
Like from Venezuela.
that's an
How
interesting.
did the Venezuela delegation do?
Well, we laugh, but those are very real questions. The primary results are set to be certified July the 15th.
Okay, well, we'll see. But we'll have a conversation. Maybe we'll have a conversation with Andrew about the race, because it could be a very interesting race if it's spread out that much. If there are that many candidates, even if you can pick up 5%, all of a sudden you could become a factor.
And the president did weigh in on this today.
The president weighed in yesterday too. But yesterday, I find the clip from yesterday on Air Force One. He honestly looks like he's thinking out loud. It's like he's saying to himself, "There's a communist running for mayor of New York." No, there really is a communist running for mayor of New York. He really is a communist. Well, we're going to have Allison with us live, which we've never had before, which is great because we're here in Washington, D.C., and we're here. I can be here now because for 4 years I was avoiding Washington because I didn't want to be in leg irons like my friend Peter Navarro was put in. I knew that they had ones with my name on it. So I will move over here for a minute as we bring Allison in with us.
And we have on the screen right now the top priorities and accomplishments of the president's big, beautiful bill. So take a look at that as we arrange it.
That's going to be the whole show then.
Oh yeah,
If
so
we
much
do
to
that.
discuss here.
Come in more.
I feel like I'm so much taller than you.
It's kind of amazing actually what he's accomplished, isn't it?
Oh, here we go. I'm gonna be shorter. Yeah, it is amazing. There's so many crazy developments on this bill.
And it must be really fascinating covering that place.
It is
The way it is
fascinating.
now.
Yeah, it is. I hear so many crazy things, mostly from the Democrats who
Right.
are always
Well,
out trying
right.
to scare everyone into
Right.
their ridiculous beliefs. I hear all these Democrat members of Congress, doing these ridiculous interviews, and I'm just over there laughing like, does anyone buy into this? This is madness.
Well, so tell us about today, Allison. What's going on at the White House and in Washington in general? Because the White House is sort of the
Beautiful bill. Of course, the House is.
Yes, the big beautiful bill is the talk of the town currently.
Yeah.
So as we know, yesterday it did pass the Senate. That was big news. It was a tie actually, and
yeah.
JD Vance had to come in to break the tie.
Okay,
So-
it wasn't Pence, huh?
Thankfully not. But yes, JD Vance was the tiebreaker, 51 to 50. So very, very slim majority there, as you know. Now, there is a lot of controversy today on the Hill because though it did pass the Senate, which I initially thought was really good news, I thought, okay, we are going to meet this July 4th deadline, right? Which is what the president wants. So we should all be rooting for that as well. However, today, in researching this further, I've realized that the Senate actually made a lot of substantial changes to the bill that may not be so great. So this is very alarming.
Is that going to jeopardize a majority in the House, or is
It
it the
could.
parliamentarian who will say it violates the reconciliation, all the crazy rules they have on reconciliation.
That's a great question.
And he's a Democratic plant.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But right now, where it sits is the fiscal conservatives and the Freedom Caucus are very primarily, it's this group that is very upset about this, because ultimately there's an additional $1 trillion added to the debt ceiling now, which wasn't in the original form of the bill when it passed the House. So the Senate managed to cram that in. And so now fiscal conservatives are very, very upset. And I think there's 10 holdouts currently that are saying they're going to refuse to be a yes vote on this until we get this back in order. So I think the majority of the day today was spent with President Trump meeting with the Freedom Caucus and fiscal conservatives to try to win them over on this. But I think it might be a tough sell this time around.
Yeah, and I think there's a restriction on how much they can change.
Yeah, I think
and
there
it
might
still
be. Yeah.
fits as reconciliation.
Yes.
And 51 votes is enough in the Senate.
Yeah.
So I thought you did a very good interview. I've forgotten the senator where you
Kevin
pushed him on,
Kramer.
you pushed him on AI, and that
Yes.
very that's what happens when you do one of these bills. I bet nobody really knew about that was there because it's so dangerous.
I know that was one of the hidden provisions, which, historically conservatives have never liked big bills for this reason, right? Because then things get hidden in there and they get buried and you never know what's actually in there. And, we found out with this
I
AI.
thought that's the way you Nancy Pelosi said that's the way you're supposed to do it. It's not right. It's not right. The founding fathers must have. You can't know what's in a bill until it's passed. That's why we've been so successful.
Famous last words, right? No, that's true. She did say that. And so that's why I was a little disappointed with the big, it's a very big bill. But, there are good things about it, no doubt. But this AI provision in the big, beautiful bill is not good. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to talk with Senator Kevin Kramer, and we started talking about it on your show, and it really started gaining some traction. I actually got to talk to Speaker Johnson and ask him a question about it. So once that conversation started going, I know Steve Bannon was also very vocal on this.
Right.
Once people started realizing the detriment that could cause to the country, word got out. And so it turned out, I was hearing initially they were going to take it from a 10-year moratorium down to a 5-year moratorium, which in my mind, I'm like, 5 years from now, it's 2025. 5 years is 2030. Agenda 2030.
We can just trust them all to do it. We can just trust them all to do AI, however they want to do it.
Exactly. But no, the amazing news that did come out of this is that the Senate actually nixed the AI provision entirely, so it is no longer in the bill at all. So this is
if Democrats could do with AI what they wanted to, they'd never have to put up another Biden again. They could just create a candidate.
It's shocking they're not in favor of it, isn't it?
Well, probably the AI candidate would be better president than Biden.
The AI candidate would actually be substantially better than Joe Biden. That is a fact. But yeah, Democrats, interestingly enough, are very against the AI stuff. They're viewing it more from the angle that it's going to take away jobs, which I think there is some truth to that. Actually, I think there's a lot of dangers with AI. And ultimately my fear is that, it's going to build this beast system that, we read about in the Bible.
Right.
And ultimately create a digital surveillance state. And are we unknowingly cheering on our own demise by
the ability to create tremendous frauds on people by creating what appears to be human beings.
They call them deep fakes.
What are they called?
Deep fakes.
Deep fakes.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's frightening.
It's really scary.
It's also something that like anything else that could be tremendously useful.
Yes, it could be
saving lives, and it's enormously useful in warfare.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was a terrific article in one of the magazines about how ultimately it's not going to be the arms race; it's going to be the AI race.
That's right.
Because you could have all the arms in the world, but if you have AI that can disable them,
yes.
Then you're the king.
Well, even Putin said whoever is the leader in AI will literally rule the world.
Right.
And it's true. And we are. It's an important issue because we are in an important AI arms race, so to speak, with China primarily. I think they're our biggest competitor in this.
There's an article today in the Wall Street Journal saying China is catching up.
Yeah.
But if you read the statistic carefully, we're still way ahead.
I think so.
And I think one of the hidden benefits of Trump's election is it didn't get that far.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was going in that direction of China catching up on us. But one of the first things he did is bring in the major chip company from Taiwan who makes the chips for the supercomputers.
Yes.
So we're going to have them made in America now.
That's right.
And he's gotten a tremendous amount of investment in AI. One of his accomplishments that no one pays enough attention to is all the money he's brought into the United States.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like he's got the most successful fund in the world.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just had such a long list of incredible accomplishments in such a short amount of time. Yet, of course, you got the Democrats finding everything in the world wrong with him, making up false, fake news that isn't even true just to bash him. I mean, I think that might be changing, though, because I saw today CNN actually was forced to give him credit on the lowest gas prices in eons. I don't know how long it's been.
We're supposed to be in big inflation right now.
Yeah.
Because of the tariffs.
Yes.
And inflation is down to, and we're supposed to be in almost a recession.
That's
now,
right.
And the stock market just hit a record.
Yes.
Is there anything that Democrats are right about?
That's a great question. That is a really good question. I heard actually Kara interviewed Tom Homan today at the White House, and he made a great point. He said he's doing fantastic work, but he said if you ask a Democrat what's wrong with tightened security at the border, what's wrong with reducing rapes and murders from illegal aliens, what's wrong with tightening up security in America and actually building a wall, right? He said they actually just stare at you with a blank look and they can't really compute. They can't figure out an answer. So I think he got him stumped on that one.
Well, you do a great job of covering the White House, and it's a full-time job because you come in the morning and by a half hour later, the story's all different, right?
My gosh.
If I find that, I find that, I go to bed at night and I start thinking about what I'm going to cover the next day, and I wake up and the whole world has changed.
I know. Isn't it incredible? Just don't even waste your time. It changes in the blink of an eye every day. Well,
thank you very, very much.
Thank you very
much. But
I
want to ask you one general question about the White House. It should be. Is it a happy White House?
Is it happy?
Yeah. I remember, the Biden White House was dysfunctional.
Yeah.
But Trump always made it kind of optimistic plays.
Yeah.
But there was so many investigations, and I was there as his lawyer. I mean, anytime I'd show up at someone's desk, I thought I had a subpoena. It was like I'd show up at the desk and I'm not here. But we were having been a prosecutor and running an office where all we did was prosecute.
Yeah.
I think I dealt with more prosecution representing Trump than I did as a U.S. attorney. Every day he was getting prosecuted. Somebody's getting subpoenaed. The White House counsel had, 5 more subpoenas that had to be answered. And it was amazing that he accomplished that much. In the first term.
Yeah.
But they've had such great accomplishments. They should. I was in the Reagan White House, and that was a very happy White House.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, but he was a very even when he was in trouble, he was a real happy warrior.
Yeah. Well, I think the Trump team is pretty incredible. I mean, what they accomplished in a day is really amazing. Sometimes I'm there and I'm just in awe of what is going on in front of my face. But it seems that the administration is very happy. It's the media and the fake news that's there that is so miserable.
Yeah.
And they try to make everyone else miserable along with them. But it's funny because when Trump did that press briefing the other day, it was his first one in the new term, right? You notice that some of these fake news outlets that, play this part of being so angry and so bitter and, the TDS is just erupting from their eyeballs. Even they were so excited to try to get a question with Trump. You could just tell he lightens up the room and it's amazing to see. So maybe the tides are turning and things are looking up.
They even seem more under control than they were the first time around. They even seem to be better behaved than they were under Biden. I mean, they're like being in charge of an out of control kindergarten. And
that's a good analogy.
I think Caroline does a good job of. She has kind of the personality that
she does
keeps them down a little.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she keeps them in check.
She makes them look bad.
Yes. Exactly. They don't want to be embarrassed by Caroline.
Well, this is something you're all your life you're gonna remember covering the White House. No matter what all the wonderful things you do in the future, you're going to remember that.
Absolutely.
So
it's been an absolute honor and a privilege. And thank you so much for all that you do. You're a legend. So we appreciate you.
Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Omega-3 fatty acids, But not just any form of omegas. These particular omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. Has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. For a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil for up to 66% off plus free shipping. Just go to getkrill.com/Lindell right now to get your special offer. With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
Well, welcome back to the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell TV.
Right
Here's
on.
Lindell TV, right here. He's in person. He was over at the White House today, so he'll have a couple of stories. But he won a big case last week. A really big victory for free speech.
That's a big victory for the country. My Pillow, 100%. No matter what you've seen on the fake news, 100% vindicated. And even myself, which we're going to go after on an appeal part, they said Mike didn't do anything malicious or whatever. And then the media is out front, because Lindell TV, we couldn't talk, right?
Right.
We couldn't talk. They wouldn't let me talk outside of the courthouse. And I go, are you kidding me? You're putting me on a restriction. The judge puts me on this restriction. This corrupt judge puts me on a restriction. And then here, all the fake news media is out there. And they go, "No, did you learn anything?" I said, "You're a traitor too." I said, "Yeah, I learned." I said, but they would place stuff in there. I got served on the steps of the state capitol of Colorado, suing My Pillow. With this law affair going on.
Right.
And so what am I going to do? I'm going to go speak.
What was My Pillow sued for?
Because their CEO, ready? No, we're still sued for billions from the other machine companies that all rhyme with Dominion and Smartmatic. But anyway, these guys, they're sued. Now you guys wrap your head around this. This was an elaborate marketing scheme by their CEO, Mike Lindell, to make money off promo codes defaming the voting machine companies. And I'm thinking, let's see.
That's Mike Lindell, not the poor Pillows.
Yeah, that's right. So, but think about this.
Pillows didn't do anything.
No, but they didn't do anything. So the thing about this, Smartmatic sued me a year later after I had already lost, My Pillow had already lost $200 million in retail stores. $200 million. So anyway, here we are. So they sued for that. I'm going, this isn't rocket science. I'm a pretty good marketer. I think I'd quit digging if I was, if it wasn't working, right? So anyway, this is the last thing he said to the prosecutor, everybody. He goes, the prosecutor, or the other side said there was Dominion lawyer, Smartmatic lawyer, they were all in there. I had so many lawyers, I couldn't even believe it. And for the pending case. And he says to the jury, you talk about free speech. He says, here's his closing statements. He says, jury, you've all heard that Mike Lindell was worth about $50 million before this all started. And now you heard his net worth is $10 million in the hole. And My Pillow is hurting. And he says, you've heard all that during this trial. But he said, we're asking for $60 million. You can go more if you want, because that's what they said. And then he goes, if it bankrupts Mike Lindell and My Pillow, so be it. We need to send a message to the country that you do not put out disinformation about our elections. That's what he said to the jury. You can't make that up.
Right. I'm
going, what? Fortunately that we're blessed with a jury that's seen through the common sense, and vindicated My Pillow 100%. Can you imagine being an advertiser and they're going to come on iShow,
Well,
whoever show,
it's like,
and they get sued because a host said something.
Yeah. It's 1984.
Yeah,
I mean, they
it
accuse
really
you
is.
of what they do.
They accused me of what they do. It
It's
was
like a mirror.
yeah, and then I'm out there with all this talking about free speech. So I go uptown. My wife and I go to a Walgreens, and that's when they had the big protest going on, right?
Mhm.
The King thing or whatever it was, the Ding-a-ling King thing, right?
Right.
You know, King.
That the president.
Yeah, it's, no kings or something. So here they come by the thousands. I just walked out of Walgreens. She's still inside. I go, and I'm right, I'm kind of like Ted. I'm right in the front row there. You see me, but right? So I budge up right to the front. All of a sudden, they see me. This one lady had a bullhorn. It's the pillow guy, Mike Lindell. And I really thought they were going to tear me apart in pieces. I mean, I've had guns to my head, swords to my throat. You read my book, but this was different. I go, maybe I better leave that. There are no cops around, and there's thousands of them. So I jump in there. I go, hey, Kendra, we better go out the back way.
Well, he almost got killed 3 or 4 times at the Democratic convention.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to get me killed too. He goes right in the middle of the Democratic. Can you imagine this guy going into the Democratic convention?
I shaved my mustache. I didn't think they knew who I was.
He was very beloved. I just appreciate it. He took a little heat off me. It was great.
Over here, leave the mayor alone.
Let's get the pillow guy.
It was fun at the White House today, though, when I was just telling you that with Tom Holmgren, Kara was there, and she goes, here he comes walking, and she goes, boy, I'd like to get an interview with him. I said, he's a good friend of mine. I said, hey, Tom. So he comes over. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and I said, would you have time to do a quick interview here on Lindell TV? He says, sure. All the other networks, you should have seen the jealousy coming. They're all filming us, filming him that are waiting, and he walked right by him.
Right. Well, he's a great interview too.
Oh yeah, it was a great interview.
So I was at Homeland Security, and I am actually amazed at how much they accomplished. To have the border down to almost nothing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I knew they were going to do it.
It's amazing.
But I predicted it would take a year to 2 years to do it.
Yeah. Well,
I used to do this kind of work, so it's not just a general. It's ridiculous what they've done. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's the words travel too, so you don't have people trying either.
Right.
They stopped, and I like that. Watching them down at Alligator World or whatever they were doing yesterday.
What a great idea to name it that. Everybody.
Alligator Alcatraz.
Can you imagine these people thinking of coming in illegally?
Yeah.
Well, if it doesn't work, we'll end up in El Salvador, the worst prison in the world. Or we'll be in the middle of Alligator
Alcatraz. But it was funny because Kristi Noem, she says, she goes, this is a warning. You guys go deport yourself right now. And I think they're doing that. She says, deport yourself now so that you can come back legally sometime. And I think people are doing that. I really do think they're doing that.
That's great advice for a person who is not a criminal, except for the fact they came in illegal. They came in illegally because they were misguided or whatever.
Yeah, but I think it's
working. They should go back.
Yeah, but I think it's working to that extent. And I think it's also working to whether people aren't even trying now. There's some fear factor.
It has to be. There has to be.
There's some fear factor. Yeah,
the deterrence factor has worked.
That's why it's happened so much. It's the perception.
I think it worked in the election too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the fact that there was so much scrutiny of the prior election and we wouldn't give up.
Here's what I think.
I think it kept the shooting down.
Yeah, here's what I think with the election, and it's my theory, and I was actually telling this to a bunch of people up at the White House today. If I was going to give you China virus 2.0 before the election, we wouldn't have done the same stuff. We would have said, I'm sorry, we're not sitting outside eating lunch in snowbanks like we had in Minnesota. Right. It would have been all different. We're not going to, you fool us once, you're not fooling us twice. Right. Election crime 2.0. If they would have stolen from our great president, people would have demanded. It wouldn't have been just you and I and a few others saying, open up those computers. Yeah. Everybody would have demanded. They would have melted them down on the spot. I think the general public would not have tolerated that.
To check computers? Could you actually look at paper ballots?
Yeah. Can you? Yeah.
Do you know that we never? No one representing Donald Trump ever got to see a single paper ballot in Pennsylvania. 700,000 were counted without a Republican allowed to inspect it. So if you wonder why I might be somewhat questioning now, and same thing in Georgia. To this day, Georgia would keep recounting the votes.
Mhm.
And I keep saying they'd always get it wrong. It would be
Right,
different.
right.
But it was the same group of cheating votes that they were recounting.
right,
Nobody
exactly.
ever got to
Well,
look at the paper
Now you got and you look
to
at
see,
paper.
is this real paper?
Right.
Is it a machine? Because you could. Is it a machine to check this off
Right.
or not?
Yeah.
Now, why would they hide it if
There's nothing to hide,
were
it's
legitimate, why
exactly
the hell
right.
would they hide it?
And it's exactly right. And I'm telling you, in this last election, there was at least 9 congressmen and 2 senators stalled. They didn't go. If I was their market, I said, you know what? We can't steal the presidency because they're on to us already. We're just going to have to put up with a couple years. We'll steal it back in the midterm. That's why it's so important right now, as we speak, in these next 10 months, before even the primaries in the midterm, to secure our elections.
Right.
And we're well on our way. I want to tell people there's so many places now that we actually have paper where there's not going to be machines, but all it's going to take, to me, is a few places, because where you have that, and then if they're over here and they steal with the computer, the deviations are going to be so blatant
Right.
that it'll be just like, if something's wrong with your bank account and you go and it doesn't match what you show, you go to the bank, and where do they look? They look inside the computer to see if there's a mistake. With computers, it can just be mistakes too, not necessarily malicious.
Right.
But they check it out. They say, here, oh yeah, we found out, But the only thing we found out, it was a 0. Somebody typed it in wrong, And in my trial in Colorado, I brought up all kinds of deviations. I'm going, here's a lady that got 0 votes in her own precinct in Georgia, a Democrat in a primary, and her husband and her daughter are in that precinct. I swear, this is what I said. If they'd have gave that lady 3 votes, they gave her 0. If they'd have gave her 3, you know what they would have said? Oh, crooked Brad Rassenberger would have said, I'm sorry, nobody loves you but your family. You only got 3 votes. You only got 3 votes. But Brad had to go open up the machines because they got 0. And you know what they called it? A programming error. Why are you programming our elections? They called it a programming error. Oh, it's a machine glitch. I mean, what? Well, then why are we using them?
Well,
So that's what I'm pushing.
Congratulations, and keep going. There's a lot more work to be done.
It's the only case, by the way, that went all the way to jury trial. Everybody else has settled because their insurance companies say, you better settle, this all the money you're getting, or they're afraid of just going, you want to go bankrupt? You want to go, or you want to be attacked so much that your business is destroyed, like MyPillow, what they tried to do.
Right.
And I'm going, and then that media outside there, when they got out there, well, are you going to quit now? Talking about, getting rid of the machines? And I said, yeah.
Is he going to quit?
I go, absolutely, I'm
Why
not
would you
going to
go
quit.
through all this if you were going to quit?
And then I
You
told
quit
him
a long time ago.
I said, we're going to be very much recycle them and turn them into prison bars. And they played my tape in that thing, for their evidence. I guess on one of my shows, I said, I always hit Brad Rassenberger and Robin Voss. I said, and we're going to put them all behind bars, and they're going to be grabbing those Dominion bars. Let me out.
All right, Mike.
All right,
Thank you, and good luck
Thank
tomorrow.
you. Yep, thank you, Mayor.
He's got another meeting at the White House tomorrow, and we'll report on what happens. Now we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Andrew?
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text MEDALS to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text MEDALS to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
Welcome back to the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell TV. Mr. Lindell had to go off, but I have with me Andrew Giuliani, who is in charge of overseeing the FIFA program in America next year, which is going to be, I think, the security challenge of the century. So we're going to begin talking about that. Tell us exactly what you're doing. Oh, by the way, it's my son, Andrew.
Well, thank you. Your favorite son, but
Right.
it's a low bar as I'm the only one as well. Yeah, look, I'm very honored to be the executive director of the White House's task force on the World Cup. The best perspective that I like to give Americans and American football fans like ourselves is about 130 million people will watch a Super Bowl. That's a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
About 2 billion people watch a World Cup final. So it makes the Super Bowl
Just
look
the
like a
final,
little
not
game.
all the games.
Just the final. When you add up the entire games, you're looking at somewhere around 8 or 9 billion viewers over the course
So
of the tournament.
They'll watch some of the early games.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on who's playing in there.
And then as it moves along, it gets bigger and bigger.
Yes. And when you think about this, it's not just one city. It's not just one site. You're looking at the entire continent, right? This is the United States will host 78 of the 104 games. Canada and Mexico will host 13 games each. You're talking about 11 sites.
78 games.
78 games. And those 78 games by the U.S. government will be treated like the Super Bowl from a security perspective. These sites, the way they ultimately utilize federal coordination teams, the way they'll move out the perimeters on there, it'll be treated just like Super Bowls day in and day out. So over a 39-day stretch, you are stressing the resources. And remember, this is also over the 250th birthday of the United States of America. There'll actually be a game in Philadelphia on July 4th, 2026.
Will there be games on the same day in different places?
Yes. Yeah, you'll have on some days as many as 6 games in the same day.
I'm thinking about it. 78, that's half a baseball season.
Yeah.
But it's
condensed. That's exactly right.
A month and a half.
That's exactly right.
So it's even as much as a baseball season.
Yeah. And it's been fascinating to learn about the infrastructure of it, because you're not just learning about one location. You're not just learning about one fan group. You're learning about the entire world. You're also learning about the entire continent. There are different challenges in Los Angeles, as you can imagine, and working with the governor and mayor's office over there, which is very unique, versus Texas and Houston and Dallas, which is probably a little more amenable to the Trump administration. But then it's also the base camps, right? You think about some of these places that might not be host sites, but Providence, Rhode Island, they might be the place where Argentina draws to be their base camp over 40 days.
There are different issues. Even in Texas, there are issues. And then in Los Angeles,
absolutely,
you got to make sure they have water in the fire.
Yeah, you've got it. You pretty much have it down over here. But it's been fascinating learning about it. One of the things that's going on right now, there's a smaller tournament called the Club World Cup.
That's going on now.
It's going on right now. We've had 56 of the 63 games that have been played. I'm thankful to report there's been no major incidents. There's been no major visa issues. We've been able to vet through all of the players, the personnel, everything without there being any major incident. I think this is one of the things that's been very clear from President Trump, Vice President Vance, from Secretary Noem, who you were with today, from Secretary Rubio, to all the different members of the cabinet that are on the task force. We want to open up the country to the world over our Independence Day for this, but we're not going to sacrifice our national security posture. I think that's very, very important. And that balance is very important, but thankfully we have a very good team to be able to work it. And I've got a guy who knows a few things about security that I can give a call to.
And And you've been at a World Cup.
Yes, that's right. In
Right.
1994.
Yeah, people forget.
Your first year in office,
People
as a
forget
matter
the
of
U.S.
fact.
had the World Cup in 1994. It was my
That's
first
right.
year in office.
That's
and
right.
We hosted the semifinal game.
That's right.
at Los
Italy
Angeles
and
had the-
Bulgaria.
and
One of my favorite moments was watching Italy and Ireland play early on in that tournament in the Meadowlands, and
that
you
could have
think
been-
about
that could have been really dangerous.
Oh, yeah. And you think about how many Italian Americans, Irish Americans are in the New York area, just how exciting it was for that area. And that's kind of what this will be next year. We get the security right. We get the visa side of this right, the transportation side of this right. It's going to be an amazing cultural legacy, an opportunity really to invite the world here to the United States of America, celebrate the greatness of the 250 years of America and the hope and promise of the next 250 years.
Oh, that's terrific. That's terrific. Except it's possible that New York City will be a communist socialist regime by that time.
Yeah, well, that's true, and we
If
can
they
get into
elect-
that
if
if
they-
you want,
if
and
they
the
elect-
numbers right here. But you're absolutely
The only
right.
good thing is that you'll be able to go into grocery stores and supermarkets and you won't have to pay anything.
Yes, well,
Which is the way they're going to reduce. I figured out that's the way Mundummy or dumb.
that's closer. That's better.
Dumb money or whatever his
Dummy
name
works.
is. That's the way he's going to reduce crime. he'll take theft down to nothing because everything will be given away.
I was actually dealing with this in a stadium, and I utilized broken windows and your theory on this in terms of a fan base was heating up in terms of what they were doing from a pyrotechnics perspective. And they said, well, we need to let them cool down. I said, well, wait a second. In another site, and I'm not going to the sites, in another site, law enforcement actually does their job there. They get it done. And guess what? They haven't had any issues, maybe because they realize there's a consequence.
Right.
So thankfully, I read a book called Leadership by some guy named Giuliani, and I learned a few things about how to actually deal with crowd control. So,
Well, as a graduate from New York politics, both with me and on your own, what do you think the chances are? I mean, winning a Democratic primary is 9 times out of 10 in New York history the election. The election is over when the Democrat gets nominated, and now we have a Democrat nominated who is extraordinary. I mean, he wants the government to control the means of production. He wants to have free grocery stores and supermarkets. He wants to provide free transportation. He wants to provide free everything.
he wants to globalize the intifada.
Yeah.
He wants to defund the police completely, not just fake it like he had said. He wants to defund the police.
He was trying to explain what he meant by that. But it's pretty clear. He just wants to kill Jews all over the world.
I think that's pretty accurate to what he believes. Look, I think it's here's the thing, and this is kind of the sobering part of it. If you go through the numbers last time, Mamdani got 430,000 primary votes on a 100-degree day. He's going to get every single one of those votes. On top of that, Lander, who cross-endorsed each other with Mamdani, got 110,000 votes. So you've got to think that Mamdani starts with 530,000 votes or so. That's a big number. When you look at where Curtis was last time in 21, he was at 320,000. So right there, you need to add about 200,000 votes. Now, again, this is a very, very unique circumstance. You're talking about somebody who has said globalize the intifada. You know what that's ultimately going to do to the Hasidic vote there. They're going to come on out to vote. You know what it's going to do even to just common sense, however many are left, common sense Democrats that live in New York that ultimately look and realize that, hey, look, maybe we don't want somebody who, prescribes to Karl Marx.
How about defund the police? Just recently, he said the New York Police Department was racist and corrupt. Meanwhile, he's surrounded. He's got more policemen around him than they have at City Hall.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that trying to interview him, you got to go through a phalanx of police.
Look, I think there's a solution to this, and I think you're threading a needle, but the needle can be thread. But I think legitimately the way that it has to be done, and I've proposed this to a couple people that are considering it. I don't know if it ultimately will happen or not. You have to manage egos, which in politics is always one of the toughest things to do. But I really think the only way for this is you have to sit down really yesterday with the Sliwa, with the Adams camp. And in some way, you need some buy-in from Cuomo in all this. And you need to sit them down and say, hey, look, you're going to have a 6-week run right now. You're going to have a 6-week run. You get your teams together. We'll have an independent pollster. And whoever's running behind in those 6 weeks has to drop out and endorse the other. Your legacy can be one of two things. It can be running third in a mayoral primary that ultimately will lose New York City to Karl Marx, or it can be actually going and endorsing the person that will win and overtake Mamdani to actually go and win the race. That to me is the only way. I don't think anybody can drop out now, because what happens is if you have somebody drop out now, whether it's Sliwa, whether it's Adams, first off, we don't know what the polling effect is going to be, probably until mid-July of Mamdani being in there, right? This needs to settle with people. They need to understand the actual consequence, and that New York truly is at a crossroads over here, right? But also what you need to see is, from a polling perspective, who's actually going to get the biggest bump out of this? Is this Sliwa? Is it Adams? Is it Cuomo? We don't really know. And at some point, there has to be a sit down, I really think, before Labor Day, because the truth is, aside from a lot of political junkies, yourself, myself included, Paul, the people that are watching your show, most people, they'll tune out of politics between July 4th and Labor Day.
I saw a whole bunch of people interviewed about him, and they don't even know.
By Labor Day, you need a buttoned up ticket, one candidate that's ready to run hard for 9 weeks. If that happens with the backing of the other candidates' constituencies, then you've got a chance. Look, other than that, we could say everybody's got a chance to run. And the truth is, if that's the case and you have 4 or 5 candidates going against Mamdani's going to win 48% of the vote, and he's going to win by 17 points. That's just the numbers, and that's the facts behind it.
Yeah, I mean, the way a candidate like Mamdani is beaten, a guy who is much more radical than the press has painted him, he's going to lose votes. People are going to drop off him. But if they drop off and they go to 3 different places,
then you're splitting. That's exactly what he wants.
Then he still wins.
Yeah.
If they drop, he is a great guy to run against if it's one-on-one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to run against him one-on-one, because you're going to get the benefit of everybody who drops off him, or they'll stay home.
Yeah.
But if you've got to share that with some that might like Cuomo better, or some that might like Sliwa better, you're absolutely right. It's got to be one of those guys has got to take him on one-on-one.
So the math equation conservatively is somebody needs to get to 520,000 votes. The truth is, probably somebody needs to get to 550 or 600,000 votes. So we could talk percentages. You could talk about this. You could talk about earning this endorsement of this party, getting on the ballot here. But the truth is, if somebody can't get to 550,000 votes, then Mamdani is going to be your next mayor come 2026 next year.
Well, I mean, the real hope is that the primary race. What was the turnout in the primary? We figured that out before. Yeah. It was 20%.
Just over 1 million people, about 20%.
Okay, so most New Yorkers don't even know about it. I mean, they have a vague. They've now seen headlines that this strange guy got nominated. Some of them think that's good. We should have a strange guy. They don't know why he's strange. But as the election moves along, unless New York has really gone haywire, a lot of people are going to drop off him when they start to think about how much he hates the police, how much how bitter his language about the Jewish people is. It's not just that he's for the Palestinians, actually for Hamas, a terrorist group. If you listen to what he says, you can see a hatred of the Jewish people.
Here's the thing that's interesting, and this goes back to your races in obviously the late 80s and 90s. Over the last 4 or 5 cycles, you haven't had that big of a turnout in New York, whether it was the de Blasio races, whether it was Adams' first race. You've had somewhere around the high 6 figures, 850 to 1.1 million people. By those numbers, Mamdani will be the next mayor of New York.
You've got to expand the turnout.
But you go back to a point where New York truly was on the brink. You think the Dinkins years, and your option is Rudy Giuliani. I think we're about 1.8, 1.9 million people came out to vote. Right. So that's what you need. You need New Yorkers that are coming out to vote, that haven't voted in a few cycles since Giuliani or maybe Bloomberg, the couple times that he ran as a Republican, they came out to vote. The question is, will they come out in those numbers? Will they come out in the Giuliani numbers? Or will they come out in the last couple of cycles? If they come out the way they came out in the last couple cycles, it's not looking good. If they come out with the energy that they came out to go vote for Rudy Giuliani, then we have a good chance.
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting because without the slightest bit of exaggeration, he wins, the city is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gone for a long time. It's going to take an awful lot. Look, we're still trying to dig our way out of de Blasio.
Yeah.
Someone said to me today, I think it was Bo Dietl, I'd even take de Blasio now.
Well, the funny thing was, I had this joke the other day. If he gets elected, we're gonna, envy the good old days of de Blasio. That's how bad this is. Because at least de Blasio was so lazy that he smoked enough dope. He didn't do too much bad,
I remember saying when he was mayor, well,
it's true. He was smoking weed all over the place. You don't like the truth? It's true. He smoked a lot of weed. Yeah, exactly.
I've told this story, but a few weeks into his administration, the head of his detail. The head of his detail came to Commissioner Bratton and said, "Boss, you can't have us take the random drug test." And why? He said, "Because they all fail. They test for marijuana by pulling your hair, and marijuana stays there for 2 weeks. And then you would have no idea whether the person smoked it themselves or every one of those cops would have failed." So Bratton went ahead and took them off.
Yeah.
But that's why I love Bratton so much. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. We had a very interesting show, one interesting guest after another. I guess Washington is a pretty interesting place, huh?
We're draining the swamp. You know what I like to say? The Trump administration is just like The Godfather, right? The first movie was one of the best ever. But the second one is even a little bit better. And in this one, we're going to kill Fredo. So whatever that means, you take that however you like. Well, obviously, I'm just joking around.
I'm going to say a Hail Mary.
Sorry, Chris Cuomo. It's not Chris Cuomo. It wasn't directed toward you.
Well, pray for all the people that are in harm's way because of the horrible 4 years we had before this, and pray for the president and his efforts to try to get them out of harm's way.
Can I say one quick thing as a son, not to interrupt you, but you learn a lot about resilience, and there's a lot that people say, right? But as a son, I saw it day in and day out, and everything they tried to do to break you in so many ways. I saw it. I saw true resilience in this man, in our president, and your action is something that will stay with me till the end of my days. So.
Oh, thank you. That makes the whole thing worth it. God bless America.
Amen.